Okay, so looking at the headlines for today, you might think a World Cup match, a Middle Eastern peace treaty, and like a massive new data center have absolutely nothing in common.
Right. On the surface, they seem completely unrelated.
Exactly. But today we're going to show you exactly how these seemingly isolated events are intimately linked. We're going to connect the dots between global diplomacy, the literal electricity powering our collective future, and all the way down to your weekend plans.
Yeah, because when you look closely at the headlines from the Daily Tech Reader's June 27th, 2026 brief, they are all bound by one massive underlying theme.
And that is the global scramble for resources and reality. Welcome to today's deep dive.
It's great to be here. You know, what's fascinating here is that we are looking at a world caught in a really profound transition right now.
For sure.
We're seeing this crucial geopolitical stabilization happening at the exact same moment that our technology sector is placing unprecedented new demands on our physical infrastructure.
Yeah, it's a balancing act of global proportions.
Exactly. The tension between the physical world and the digital world has, frankly, never been higher.
So let's start with the physical world, specifically the energy that runs it, because you really can't understand the current tech boom without understanding the power grid.
You absolutely cannot.
And that story starts in the Middle East. Based on the brief, the current framework shows U.S.-Iran diplomacy actively moving toward a possible long-term agreement.
Right, which is huge.
Yeah, and this builds on that tentative agreement regarding the Strait of Hormuz that we saw back in late May. And it looks like Qatar is acting as the key diplomatic intermediary here.
Yeah, Qatar is playing a central role, and obviously we're just reporting what's in the brief here, looking at the diplomatic mechanics impartially. But the immediate result on the ground is that regional tensions are easing.
Right, which means shipping through the strait is normalizing. I mean, think of the Strait of Hormuz as like the global economy's carotid artery.
That's a great way to put it.
It's this narrow, vital passageway, and when it gets constricted, even a little bit, the entire global system just panics.
Oh, absolutely. But you see that panic evaporates the second the framework of these treaties takes shape. I mean, oil prices have rapidly reverted to pre-conflict levels.
Because the risk premium is being removed. Right?
Exactly. When freighters don't have to pay these astronomical insurance rates just to navigate major global trade routes, that is a textbook example of diplomatic de-escalation translating directly into economic relief.
The global economy is finally getting some desperately needed breathing room.
It really is.
But, I want to challenge the economic logic here for a second, because there seems to be a bit of a disconnect.
Okay, what do you mean?
Well, if this diplomatic easing is stabilizing oil and, removing that risk premium, why are we seeing Treasury yields remaining so elevated?
Oh, right.
The data shows inflation is still keeping Federal Reserve policy in extremely sharp focus on Capitol Hill right now.
Yeah.
Shouldn't this massive technological boom we're living through be, inherently deflationary?
You would think so, yeah.
So why is the central bank still agonizing over whether to cut or hold interest rates if energy prices are actually stabilizing?
So that tension you're pointing out, that is exactly why investors are hyper-focused on this geopolitical baseline.
Okay.
Yes, technology is inherently deflationary because it creates efficiency, but the physical reality of building that technology, it is incredibly expensive.
Right. The actual hardware.
Exactly. Energy markets dictate the floor price of literally everything. Stable oil prices from the Middle East act as a necessary counterweight to the massive domestic spending we are seeing.
I see.
The Fed is looking at elevated treasury yields, which, basically means the government is paying more to borrow money. And they know that if energy prices were to spike right now, inflation would completely run away from them.
So the diplomatic stabilization brokered by Qatar isn't solving inflation on its own.
No, not on its own, but it is capping the upside risk. It basically gives the Fed the flexibility to navigate this massive infrastructure boom without throwing the whole economy into a recession.
Wow. Okay, well, that perfectly transitions us to the boom itself.
Let's get into it.
We just established why global energy stability is the baseline. But the reason we need that energy baseline so desperately right now is that we're in the middle of a power-hungry infrastructure expansion, unlike, anything we've ever seen.
It's unprecedented.
We need to pivot from the geopolitical supply of energy to the absolute behemoths consuming it, which are AI data centers.
Yes, the data centers.
And here's where it gets really interesting, I think. We always use the phrase the cloud when we talk about AI, and honestly, it's a terrible metaphor.
It really is. It makes it sound so harmless.
Right, we talk about it like it's this invisible, weightless magic floating above us.
Yeah.
But the reality is the exact opposite. AI is a giant physical machine plugged directly into our electrical grid.
It is intensely physical, and AI infrastructure spending is, without a doubt, the defining trend of the entire technology industry right now.
So who's doing the building?
We are watching hyperscalers. So entities like Microsoft and Amazon engage in accelerated global data center construction. And, we need to be clear about what a hyperscaler actually is.
Right, they aren't just normal tech companies anymore.
Exactly. These aren't just large companies. They are organizations building digital infrastructure on a scale that was previously reserved for nation states.
Wow.
And they're completely reshaping utility planning. It's no longer just about buying some land for servers. This expansion is driving accelerated investment in high-voltage transmission infrastructure.
And massive grid modernization, too, according to the brief.
Yeah, and it is the primary reason we are seeing renewed policy attention toward nuclear energy, just to meet that baseline demand.
Right, because you can't run a supercomputer on wishful thinking.
Definitely not.
These GPU clusters, they run so hot they require liquid cooling and massive power draws 24 hours a day. But, let me push back on the sustainability of all this for a second.
Okay.
With these hyperscalers building all these data centers globally and semiconductor investment just going through the roof, is this actually sustainable?
That's a fair question.
Because we've seen tech bubbles before. Look at the dot-com crash, where everyone laid millions of miles of fiber optic cable for a digital future that took like a decade to actually arrive.
Right, the build it and they will come mentality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Are we just building millions of square feet of empty digital factories, pumping them full of expensive electricity, and just hoping consumer demand catches up?
So that is the multi-trillion-dollar question. But the financial markets are signaling a shift that fundamentally separates this from the dot-com bubble.
Okay, how so?
Investors are no longer operating on blind optimism, or just funding cool research projects. If you look at the current market indicators, technology investors are demanding measurable AI returns.
So they want actual profits now.
Yes, they are violently shifting their capital toward profitable AI companies. And more importantly, the enterprise customers, the actual businesses integrating these AI services, they're pushing hard for predictable, usage-based pricing.
So no more blank checks.
Right. They don't want a flat subscription for hype. They want to pay exactly for the compute they use to generate tangible business value. The demand is maturing.
It's becoming heavily metric-driven.
Exactly. The digital infrastructure itself is incredibly robust, but the bottleneck isn't the software adoption anymore. The bottleneck is the physical grid's ability to power it all.
Okay, so we have the global energy flowing from the Middle East, and we have the massive physical machines drinking that energy to run the AI models.
Right.
But let's talk about what this actually means for you, the listener, sitting at your desk or, going to the doctor. How is this top-down investment colliding with the human workforce?
It's hitting the workforce very directly.
Yeah, because AI is moving deep into enterprise production, specifically reshaping knowledge work. The brief highlights that we are seeing AI coding assistants completely changing software development.
And we need to unpack how those coding assistants actually function, because they aren't just advanced autocomplete anymore.
Right. It's way beyond that.
These systems are anticipating entire system architectures. An engineer can prompt the AI to review millions of lines of legacy banking code, identify a security vulnerability, and rewrite the logic in a modern syntax literally in seconds.
That's insane.
It is. It's taking the repetitive, structural, heavy lifting totally out of software engineering.
And it's not just software either. In healthcare, it's honestly incredible. AI is actively shortening portions of the drug discovery process.
Yeah, and rapidly expanding precision medicine. That drug discovery aspect is revolutionary.
How does that actually work in practice?
Well, historically, finding a new pharmaceutical compound involved years of physical trial and error in a lab, testing how thousands of different molecules interact.
Just a lot of mixing and waiting.
Exactly. But now, AI can simulate how millions of chemical compounds will fold and bind to a specific cancer protein digitally, entirely in the machine in a matter of weeks.
Wow, so it removes the physical guesswork.
It does. And we're also seeing multimodal AI becoming standard systems that can process text, audio, and video simultaneously.
Right, like having a doctor feed your verbal description of your symptoms your written medical history, and a live ultrasound video into a single diagnostic system all at the same time.
Exactly. And this is extending out into the physical world, too, with robotics and embodied AI advancing rapidly across heavy industries.
But, the adaptation is incredibly messy. We are seeing major growing pains.
Oh, absolutely. It's not seamless at all.
Take the major story from earlier in June. The brief mentions that Florida became the first state to sue OpenAI over ChatGPT safety failures.
Right.
And just to be clear, we're simply reporting the facts of the lawsuit from the source here without taking any sides. But you have a state government legally colliding with the fastest growing technology company in history over consumer protection.
It's a massive clash.
Yeah. And alongside that, we have persisting severe cybersecurity talent shortages. And cybersecurity investigations are ongoing across multiple industries right now. It kind of feels like we're in the horseless carriage era of artificial intelligence.
The horseless carriage is the perfect analogy.
Right.
When cars were first invented, they literally looked like wooden carriages without the horses, and people tried to drive them on cobblestone roads that were designed for hooves.
They didn't rethink the concept of transportation, they just swapped the engine.
Exactly, and that's what we're doing now. We are trying to cram revolutionary AI technology into old, outdated office workflows.
We're using a supercomputer to write a slightly faster email rather than rethinking how we communicate entirely.
Right.
So how do we reconcile these two extremes? On one hand, AI is making unprecedented medical breakthroughs in cancer research by simulating molecular structures. But on the other hand, it's triggering massive state-level lawsuits in Florida and causing absolute boardroom panic over cybersecurity vulnerabilities.
This raises an important question, and what you are describing is the absolute hallmark of workforce modernization.
Okay.
It is inherently chaotic. The technology is moving at an exponential pace, measured in weeks, while state legislatures and corporate governance move at a linear pace, measured in years.
Right, they just can't keep up.
Exactly. And that friction is exactly why employers are shifting their internal focus right now. Upskilling remains a massive corporate priority.
And skills-based hiring is expanding rapidly, too.
Yes. Employers are realizing that traditional four-year degrees aren't enough anymore. They specifically need people who know how to manage, direct, and secure these new AI tools.
Which makes sense.
It's also why hybrid work patterns are finally stabilizing. Companies are finding the equilibrium of what requires in-person human collaboration and what can be automated. We are essentially in the awkward adolescent phase of AI governance, where the tools are advancing faster than the regulations.
It's the friction of the digital future rubbing up against the reality of the present, which honestly brings us perfectly to the weekend outlook. Because we spend all week agonizing over macroeconomic policy, the Federal Reserve rate cuts, molecular drug discovery, and the geopolitical chessboard.
And then it's Saturday morning.
Right. And then you look at the rest of the headlines, and you are aggressively reminded that human beings are still out here living in a very weird, very physical world. Let's look at what's actually happening out there right now.
Let's do it.
Preparations are continuing in full swing for America's 250th anniversary celebrations, and forecasts for Independence Day travel are exceptionally strong.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah, what's wild is that people are hitting the road, despite the fact that housing affordability is still a massive challenge for buyers, and elevated interest rates are locking people into their current situations.
It really shows where the modern consumer's priorities lie right now. If they are locked out of the housing market by elevated rates, they are redirecting that capital towards shared physical experiences.
Like travel.
Exactly. We see this with the World Cup knockout stage becoming the absolute biggest sports story of the weekend. It is commanding massive global attention, competing directly with the traditional summer movie season and the digital streaming platforms.
I just love the sheer variety of the human experience here. You have severe weather systems shifting across the Midwest and Southeast right now, a very stark, undeniable reminder of our physical environment.
For sure.
And then there is this incredible juxtaposition in the briefs, right alongside stories about advanced satellite initiatives monitoring global trade from orbit. Yeah. There was a June 2 headline about federal authorities uncovering a 2,000-foot drug tunnel connecting Mexico to the U.S.
It's unbelievable.
We have hyperscalers building quantum-ready, liquid-cooled data centers, and at the exact same time, people are literally digging 2,000-foot tunnels in the dirt with shovels to circumvent physical borders. It's the ultimate low-tech hack to a high-tech world.
It is a striking contrast, but it perfectly anchors us back to our core theme today.
How so?
Well, despite our profound collective digital obsession, Our biggest challenges and our greatest joys remain deeply, undeniably physical.
Yeah, that's true.
We are dealing with severe weather events that disrupt travel. We are advancing massive concrete infrastructure projects. We are navigating physical borders. The persistence of the physical domain is just absolute.
Even as everything else goes digital.
Right. Even as the music industry and Hollywood are being forced to aggressively evaluate and adapt to AI-assisted production workflows and AI-generated content, the demand for live sports, live entertainment, and authentic, human-centric documentary programming continues to grow year over year.
Because we want authenticity. We want to see a real person pushing themselves to the limit to score a real goal in a real stadium.
Exactly.
And no matter how good the AI video generation gets, it just can't replicate the stakes of physical reality. Technology is completely reshaping the tools we use in the office, but it hasn't changed the fundamental human desires that drive our culture on a Saturday afternoon.
Beautifully said.
Well, let's quickly recap the incredible journey we've taken you on today. We started in the shipping lanes of the Middle East, where diplomatic de-escalation is stabilizing the global oil supply, removing the risk premium, and basically giving the Federal Reserve the breathing room it needs to keep inflation in check.
Which is critical because that stable baseline of energy is desperately needed to power the massive hypercharged AI data centers being built by hyperscalers at an unprecedented rate.
Right. And we look at how those AI models are trickling down into the modern enterprise, accelerating drug discovery and coding, while simultaneously causing immense friction, sparking state-level lawsuits, and forcing a massive wave of human upskilling.
And finally, we zoomed all the way out to see that despite all this massive digital transformation, you are still living in a physical world.
Yep, probably spending your weekend dealing with summer weather, watching the World Cup knockout stage, or packing the car for a July 4th road trip.
And as you head into that weekend, I want to leave you with one final thought to consider.
Okay, let's hear it.
We started our deep dive by discussing how diplomatic peace in the Middle East is stabilizing our energy markets today. But given the sheer staggering amount of electricity required to power the AI data centers of tomorrow, what happens when the digital world's demand for power outpaces our physical grid's ability to supply it?
Oh, wow.
Could the defining geopolitical resource battles of the next decade not be over oil in the Strait of Hormuz, but over the raw electricity, the nuclear material, and the grid infrastructure needed to fuel artificial intelligence?
That is a fascinating and honestly slightly terrifying thought. You start looking at those high-voltage power lines along the highway a little differently when you realize they are the actual lifelines of the digital age.
You really do.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this helped cut through the noise of your feed and gave you a clearer picture of how these massive, seemingly isolated global systems are actually interacting right now.
It's all connected.
It really is. Think about that interplay between the digital and the physical as you go about your next few days. Have a fantastic weekend, whether you're braving the severe weather in the Midwest, watching the World Cup, or just getting a head start on your Independence Day travel prep.
Enjoy your weekend, everyone.
And remember, no matter how advanced the cloud gets, it's still plugged into the wall. We'll see you next time.